finishing this video off because y'all know I don't finish videos off, bro. Because it's like, yo, just check out his channel, right? Y'all came here to check out my POV on it, my you know, opinion about it, because that's why we gathered here, folks. So let me go ahead and dive into, you know, the moral of the story. Yo, it's quite interesting, you know, the philosophies of the East, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like the Zen Buddhism and the Tao Te Ching. You know what I'm saying? Tao Te Ching. Do your homework, like the Taoism. You know what I'm saying? Wu Wei, principles like this. You know what I'm saying? Philosophers like Lao Tzu. Like, do your homework. If this is too deep for you, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, like check out my other channels though. My other channels where I break down modern shit that maybe might be resonant to you type shit. You know what I'm saying? But right here, we gotta get this deep, right? So philosophies like this, bruh, like where find concepts where you can use energy that might previously have you shaken. You know what I'm saying? Enemy type shit. You know, energies that may feel like an attack or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Being able to use that to just like manipulate your way through that energy, your experience of that energy. You know what I'm saying? So being able to like use, feel me, whatever you think is inducing that anxiety, face it head on. See, because I feel like this whole principle, right, it requires you to see weakness in what you think is the strong aspect, right? AKA the bully that's there to bully you. Be able to like spot weakness in them. Yes, they're the bully, they're the big bad guy, they're the giant, they're the Goliath. And yes, the general optic of it, right? The whole picture is that, yo, he's gonna bust your ass. He gonna fuck you up. Excuse my French, but he gonna mess you up, right? But then now, you know, obviously this takes like practice for you to get your mental in, like, okay, seeing what you're scared of, seeing what might objectively squash you, but like being able to face it long enough to see its weaknesses and being able to play on that weakness. That's the point I'm getting in terms of, you know, Taoism, right? Let me just refresh everybody's memory again. Taoism.
Hi, Sizway.
Yo, co-pilot, what is the principle of Taoism? Break it down.
Sure thing, Sizway. So, Taoism is all about living in harmony with the Tao, which basically means the natural way of the universe. One of the big concepts is the idea of going with the flow. Rather than forcing things, you align yourself with the natural rhythms of life. There's also the whole...
Yeah, how can we use that kind of principle to win against enemies in situations where we feel threatened and are trying to use Taoism and the principles of Taoism to win? When we feel weak, let me add that. When we feel like we feel weak, how do we use the principles of Tao Te Ching to, you know, have a winning result?
So here's the cool part about the Tao Te Ching. It actually flips that whole feeling weak thing on its head. It teaches that softness and flexibility are actually strengths. So if you're feeling weak or you're up against something tough, the Tao Te Ching would say, hey, be like water. You adapt, you flow around obstacles, you don't force things. And by doing that, you actually find a way to turn that so-called weakness into a kind of quiet strength. So I'm curious, what's a situation where you might want to try flowing a little more like water?
Well, the situation is that well, let me ask you this first. First things first. Where do you think that principle is taken seriously as a reality in parts of the world? And where, like, in what part of the world is that taken the most seriously as a principle?
So, at the heart of it, Taoist principles are really rooted in Chinese philosophy and culture. So naturally, you'll see a lot of that thinking taken seriously in places where those philosophies have deep roots, like in parts of China, Taiwan, or even some communities in other East Asian countries. It's woven into things like traditional Chinese medicine, martial arts like Tai Chi, and even just everyday approaches to life. But I'd say the cool thing is that these ideas have gone pretty global. People all over the world are tapping into Taoist ideas, especially when they're looking for a more chill, balanced approach to life. So, thinking about...
Let me bring it closer to my own backyard. So, Do you think there are similarities between Tao Te Ching principles and African, principles of philosophy?
Absolutely, there's definitely some common ground on there. A lot of African philosophies, like the concept of Ubuntu, which is all about interconnectedness and living in harmony with your community, share that same spirit of balance and harmony that you see in Taoism. Both emphasize this idea of going with the natural flow, respecting the rhythms of life, and understanding that we're all part of a larger whole. So it's kind of neat, right? You got these different cultures and philosophy.
Is there any real practices of anything similar to Taoism that's practiced maybe in the West?
Oh, absolutely. In the West, you'll definitely find people gravitating towards similar principles, even if they're not calling it Taoism. You see it in mindfulness practices, yoga, or even the whole minimalist lifestyle movement, where people are trying to live more simply and go with the flow. And of course, the whole wellness scene has really embraced ideas of balance and being in tune with nature, which is very much in the same spirit. So, with that in mind, is there a particular practice
Let me ask you this, co-pilot. So, what is a real? Can you paint? Are you able to paint a real life example of what a person that practices similar principles to Tao Te Ching in the West? How do that person's life look like day to day, bro?
Yeah, for sure. So if someone in the West is really vibing with principles similar to the Tao Te Ching, their day-to-day might look a bit more like a blend of intentional calm and flexibility. They probably start their mornings with some kind of mindfulness practice, maybe meditation or just a quiet cup of tea while watching the sunrise, and they'd go about their day with a kind of go with the flow attitude. Look, if something unexpected happens, they roll with it instead of stressing out. They might lean into nature a bit more, spend time outdoors, and ultimately just keep things simple and balanced. So, thinking of all that, is there any part of that approach that you'd be interested in weaving into your own daily routine?
I'm just thinking about with the influence though that comes at, tempting you to not be consistent when it comes to being mindful and things like that. I'm talking about everything that goes on in worlds that are not where this Tao Te Ching thing originated, aka in the West, bro. There's a whole lot of temptation that can get you away from this. How do you keep it consistent where the environment just tempts you to be away from it more often than it doesn't?
Yeah, I hear you this way. It can definitely be a challenge. The modern world isn't exactly handing out gold stars for mindfulness, right? There's always something trying to pull your attention in a million directions. But hey, that's where the practice really becomes the most meaningful. It's all about just returning to that intention over and over again, even in small ways. Like maybe it's just taking a few deep breaths before you jump into the chaos of the day, or reminding yourself to look out the window and just notice the clouds for a minute. At the end of the day, it's all about those little consistent resets. And if you veer off track, which everybody does, you just gently come back to it. So what do you think? Is there maybe one tiny thing you could see yourself doing to anchor yourself?
I guess, appreciate your POV, my boy. Look, I guess, it's about choosing the decision to just consistency. I feel like consistency goes into just choosing, the foundational, just the primary principle, the primary rule of thumb type shit that you choose to be on, no matter the situation. You know what I'm saying? AKA, choosing to see your weakness as the strength. Not even exclusively seeing shit that way, but it's wherever you are weak, not choosing to let that be the negative. Not letting that count as the negative. You know what I'm saying? And that's how and that does involve being mindfulness. Mindfulness? I feel like that term just limits the whole thing to just be present in your mind mentally, just be present even physically. You know what I'm saying? Be as aware as you can of most of your environment. You know what I mean? Because that's where we can just see the blind spots, the pockets where we can, notice that even though I may be the weakling in this situation, here's how I can maintain strength in just me being present. Yes, I'm the weak one, and there's plenty of aspects of this moment, this environment that can be seen as strong. AKA, bro, like, if you're a working guy, working girl, you know what I'm saying, you're 9 to 5, you know, you may not be seen, you may not feel seen, but there's pockets within there that you can, like, literally shine, you know what I'm saying? Outperforming guys, you know what I'm saying? Keeping your head down, keeping your, you know, the grind moving, not being the one that yaps a lot, that, you know, demands all this attention, try to be friends with everybody, but it's like, and you still kill that, you know, best performer list on the thing. Like, you still, like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's complaining about this job, but somehow you the one that, like, came out to just elevate. You know what I'm saying? You went into the job, you worked there for like 8 months. At the end of 8 months, you were able to build something, whether through saving, whether through investing in other things, through aggressively just budgeting for your thing, while everybody seems like, yeah, they're giving us money, but there's nothing you can do with this money. No, you did not choose to complain. You built something, and span of 8 months, you out here, you're a giant outside of this environment. It's like, bro, you know what I'm saying? You was the weak one that, like, but you made something strong out of that weakness type shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's like my whole point of this whole thing, and what I actually wanted to just point out, really. Judo though, judo is a very fascinating art. I'm not gonna, okay, look, I'm not gonna get into any of that right now. Tap in. So actually, I wanted to. Let's not do that.
Used against the blow to the head, which is one that turns into a cut. Thus.